Hey everyone, the artificial trainer here. So today we're going to go through how you can create a shell script um, to spin up your ComfyUI environment faster. So let's connect. I already have a RunPod instance set up here. I'll show you the settings real quick. So 100 gigabytes of volume. I have Port 8888 is what our Jupyter notebook's going to run on. Port 3000 is what our ComfyUI environment's going to run on. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is connect to Jupyter Lab. I was messing with some ComfyUI stuff before, so I'm going to remove everything from our workspace just to give us a clean slate. So we both should be at the same spot. So I want to create a shell script. Instead of doing installs one by one like we were doing, I'm going to create a shell script so that we just have to call one install.sh file and it'll install all of ComfyUI, and as well as any other models that we want to install as well. All right, so let's create a file here. Call it install.sh. Let's open that up. All right, so first thing we want to do is set our root folder. For almost all of us, it should be just cd/workspace. That sets our root as the workspace. Next thing we want to do is pull our ComfyUI code. All right. So we are going to clone. So that clones ComfyUI into the workspace folder. And then let's navigate into that folder. Okay, and then here I'll show you in the background here while we do this. We can also just run all these commands in terminal, and it'll tell us if we're building our shell script correctly. Okay, so we're up to the point where we're inside ComfyUI. So the next thing we want to do was create our virtual environment. All right, let's try that out. All right, no problem. So I'm just going to list this out to show you that it worked, but we're not going to put this ls into our shell script. So it did in fact work. We have our virtual environment. All right, and then we want to activate our virtual environment. So source venv/bin/activate. So that'll activate our virtual environment. Then we want to, next thing is to install, hold on, let's make sure that this works first. All right, yep, so activate our virtual environment. Next thing we want to do is install our requirements. So pip install -r requirements.txt. Let's copy that and make sure it works. Yep, it's working, so give it a second and I'll be back once it's installed. Okay, so now we have our requirements.txt installed. Next thing to do is install ComfyUI Manager. By the way, I've really only showed how to install ComfyUI Manager, but there are a lot of other custom nodes that are super helpful, and I'll probably go through a lot of those in future videos. All right, so we're gonna clone the ComfyUI manager. Okay, that worked just fine. All right, and then at this point, we could run ComfyUI. We have everything installed that we need to, but let's install some models because we don't want to have to use the ComfyUI manager to install models every time. So we could use a command line argument called wget. I recommend not using wget because it only downloads on one thread. What instead I would recommend to use is aria2c. So aria2c will let you download on multiple threads at a time, which increases the download speed like 10x plus sometimes. So it's not available in RunPod by default, but it is available for Ubuntu. So the way that we get the new packages, we do an apt-get update. That'll update the list of packages that can be installed through Ubuntu. And then we're going to do apt-get-y install aria2. So this will install aria2 and allow us to take advantage of that really fast download speeds. Okay, so let's just run this back here quickly. Make sure everything works correctly. So that installed aria2 for us. So now we can take advantage of using the really fast download speeds. All right, so next what we want to do here, let's ask ChatGPT where we should be putting our, so we're going to install Flux Schnell. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT how to install Flux Schnell for ComfyUI and where the models go. Just do the models go in. Okay, so it recommended that I go to the Flux Schnell GitHub page. Let's try that out. I am pretty confident that we want the hugging face instead. Yep. Okay, so Black Forest Labs is the creator of Flux Schnell. Flux .1-Schnell is what we're looking for, and then we want the files. So the Flux Schnell model is going to be this Flux1 Schnell safe tensor. You'll get pretty used to seeing these safe tensor files, and honestly the size of these files is, you can kind of tell what's what. So a 24 gigabyte file like this is probably the weights for an AI model. So I'm going to copy that link. So this is how you copy the download link. And I'm going to use aria2c to download it. Okay, so aria2c, this means we're going to copy it, and then we're going to use 16 threads to do the download. And then we're going to place it in the directory. That's what -d does. Models/unet. and we're going to call it Flux1 Schnell dot save tensors. Okay, so what that'll do, if we look at our file system on the left here, since we're already in the ComfyUI repository, it'll download this model, it'll put it into models, and then it'll put it into models unet. That's what this does, and then it'll rename the file Flux Schnell dot save tensors. So let's make sure that we did that command correctly. Oh, I made an error here, sorry. There needs to be a -O in between here. So that's a good, that's why we tested this out, right? So that gives us real-time feedback that we did something wrong, and now that's working as expected. All right, so like I said, this is a very large file, so it'll take just a few minutes, but this file would take over 10 minutes to download without ARIA 2. With ARIA 2, it's under a minute, so massive time savings. I mean, it saves you like probably 15 cents every time you're spinning up a new RunPod environment. Okay. So next, what does ChatGPT say to do? It says that we need you know what? ChatGPT is not giving us the best advice, so I'll just walk you through it. All right, so next we need the VAE, which is this file. All right, so copy link, same thing. Right click on the download button, copy the link, and let's do the same thing. ARIA 2c-c-x. All right, and then this time for the directories, the directory is models/VAE-O Flux VAE. You can call it whatever you want, as long as you call it with the correct node in ComfyUI, you're fine. All right, so that will put the file into our VAE folder. And then the last 3 things we need are, they're called clips. And this is what helps with the text encoding. So let's just do it. So same ARIA call. And then we will go back to Black Forest Labs here and look at our text encoder. All right, so there's actually better text encoders out there, so I apologize for using some of my own knowledge here, but I know that Comfy Anonymous has provided some better text encoders just for his nodes. So we want the clip L and the FP16 ones. And I'll put these links in the description just so you will be saved trying to read what the URLs are. All right, so we're going to call this one clip L.SaveTensors. And then same thing with ARIA2C. So the T5 text encoder. All right, now let's try these just to make sure we got all the download links correct. All right, so the VAE was good. Okay, clip was good. And the T5 clip. Okay. So now we should have a working ComfyUI environment with our with Flux models installed. So let's try it. All right. So Python main.py -- listen -- port 3000. This is the port that I exposed originally, port 3000, right here. So I'm going to try that. Okay, so it looks like everything ran correctly. Let's just connect. All right, and let's go grab one of Comfy Anonymous's Flux examples. So we have Flux Schnell. So let's download this image. So when Comfy posts images on his blog, he embeds the workflow. The workflow is basically just a JSON file, and since the JSON file is embedded into this picture, you can just drag the picture into ComfyUI, and it will pull the workflow in, which is pretty neat. All right, so let's just, so we can see that our Schnell diffusion model was imported correctly, our T5 text encoder was imported correctly, our clip was imported correctly, and our VAE was imported correctly. So now, if we just hit enter, or if we just hit Control Enter or Q, it should load the models and give us an output. All right, and there we go. So now that we've built our shell script, we want to delete everything and then rerun this to make sure the shell script's working correctly, right? So let's go back out here to, so Control C will stop the server. You can see it kills this ComfyUI instance. And it should also, if we reopen this, it probably, RunPod doesn't realize that this has been killed, but that's okay. So I'm going to remove ComfyUI. So this is the Linux, basically delete folder command. So I'm going to delete the ComfyUI folder. Oh, sorry. I need to be in the workspace root. So I just backed out one folder, and then I'll run this again. All right, so you can see the ComfyUI folder was deleted, and now all we need to do to reinstall, so it'll essentially, we just automated all of this work into one file, which you can download and then reuse every single time. So let's run bash install.sh, and this will go through that whole process automatically and give us our ComfyUI install. So I'll see you after this install is done. All right, and just like that, we have ComfyUI running. Maybe under 2 minutes. Now that we have our shell script, so let's go and connect. Make sure everything's working okay. All right, so let's go Flux Schnell, our T5 text encoder, our clip L, and let's hit Q. Make sure everything's working correctly. All right, so I hope this saves you some time and money. You can create it. I always use a shell script to start my my ComfyUI whenever I'm getting started. It's the next best thing to having your own machine in terms of speed. But to me, RunPod offers me a level of security that running ComfyUI on my own machine wouldn't give me. Like I mentioned, there's been a lot of hacks that happen with ComfyUI and using RunPod. I don't have to worry about my personal information being downloaded or hacked into. So I really appreciate that about this. And using a shell script, you can see, I mean, it was under 2 minutes, pulling over 30 gigs of data, and we were able to generate this. So just download that shell script, and then you can enter that into your RunPod at any time you want. You can add more ARIA 2C installs. You can install Stable Diffusion XL, Stable Diffusion 1.5. You can install LoRa's. You can install text inversion, video models. So this is the route I would recommend. And then I hope this helps. I hope this speeds up your deployment and your upstart time. And I will talk to you all again later. If you have any comments or any questions, leave them in the chat, and I'll get to them as soon as I can.